Hi, Kathy here from the Delafield Quilt Company, and today's video is going to be block number 8 of a 9-week long series here on our channel. If you're interested in this series, we do have all of the cut instructions and how to make the blocks available on our website at delafieldquiltco.com, and those are free to download. Block number 8 can look a little bit complicated, but actually it's a pretty quick and easy one to make because we're going to use some 2 at a time half square triangles, and we're going to do 4 at a time flying geese, and pretty much that's probably the most complicated parts of this that you're going to have to work with. Alright, I've already got all my pieces cut, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with piece B and piece E. And I'm just going to sew these two together, long sides together, right sides together if you're using print fabric. And I'm just going to do a scant 1/4 inch along the top. And you do want to do a scant 1/4 inch on this one, because once you sew it and cut it up, which we'll do in a little bit, if you don't use that, I'm afraid your piece might be a little bit short when you go to sew the other pieces onto it. Alright, I'm going to sew this one now. Then once you have this piece sewn, you just need to press the seams. I am going to press them open just because we're going to cut these up into smaller little pieces. I'm going to finger press it first and then press it with my iron. And then I'm going to cut this up into 1.5 inch sections. And I should get a total of 8 of these from this whole piece here. And I'm just making sure I line my ruler lines up with the seam and have a nice straight edge. Okay, I'm going to set those aside for now. And then I'm going to grab piece F and pieces C. You should have 2 of these pieces C. And I'm just going to sew these to piece F with that nice leaf green color in the center. So I'm going to sew one side first using the scant 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to probably hand press it for now and then sew on that other piece. And then I'm just going to fold this open a little bit. I'll press it later. Just want to make sure I get that first piece out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and put that second white piece on there. Now that I have this sewn, I'm just going to finger press those seams open and then press a little bit with my iron. This is a good time to check your scant 1/4 inch. If your scant 1/4 inch is on, you should have 1 inch of the green showing. And then I'm going to just cut this into 4 sections this time, and the sections will again be 1.5 inches in width. Okay, now we're ready to assemble these corner blocks here. And very simple on this one, we're just going to take 2 of those pieces from earlier and put the one in the middle there, just so we have that nice little diagonal line going there. And you're going to repeat that for the rest of these pieces as well. So you should have a total of 4. And these are going to go in the corners of the block to make that little Irish chain look. Okay, then I'm just going to sew these together, and I'm going to just make sure that I line those seams up really well and do a scant 1/4 inch again. All right, I've got these little pieces done, and just like before, I press those seams open. Okay, now we're moving on to our 4 at a time flying geese. We need piece L and piece I, and a fabric-friendly writing utensil. I like to use these friction pens. It just erases with a little bit of heat. And then take your ruler, and we're going to use that 45-degree line. And I do like to leave a little bit of space right below the points, just to make sure that I'm allowing for the thickness of my writing utensil. Then we're going to draw this diagonal line on all of the wrong sides of piece L. I use the Florida Time Flying Geese a lot because it's one of my favorite blocks to make, but I probably maybe use it a little too much, so I apologize if you got sick of these in the sew along, and I promise this is the last set for the summer sew along of 2024. Okay, and then we're going to take our piece I, and we are going to line 2 of our L squares from bottom to top on that diagonal there. And we just want to make sure those lines that we drew line up diagonally on that piece I square. And then we're going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. Okay, I've got my line sewn on both sides of the line, and now I'm just going to cut right on that drawn line from earlier. And then I'm going to press towards these little triangles. And when I'm pressing these, I like to carefully kind of fold back those little triangles first, then give them a little pressing. All right, now that I've got these pressed, I'm going to bring back those last 2 little buttercup squares. And I'm going to line the diagonal line between those 2 small triangles. And again, I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on both sides of these lines. All right, now that I've got those sewn on, I'm just going to cut again on that line. And then I'm going to have my 4 flying geese. And I will press again to the little triangles. Okay, now that I've got these all ironed, I'm going to trim them up. And I'm going to use the 45-degree mark on my ruler. I'm going to line it up with the triangle of one of these flying geese. And these should measure 2 inches by 3.5 inches. And then I want to make sure there's a 1/4 inch from the point of that triangle. Then I am just going to trim off the little dog ears. There's really very little you've got to trim on these. I think that's why they're called the no waste flying geese method. Now I'm going to line it up again and trim off the other pieces. And then I'm just going to repeat that for these other 3. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and lay out the center portion of this block. So I'm going to take those 4 flying geese. We've got 1 on each side. And then I want my center piece, which is that pale pink, and that's a 3.5 inch square. And I'm going to take these little corner squares that are in that popsicle color. And these popsicle squares are 2 inches. I think this might be my favorite color of this whole series, although I really like the chartreuse color too. It's a hard toss-up. Alright, so I've got these laid out. And now I am just going to sew them by rows and then sew the whole piece together. And here's our little centerpiece. I did press the seams so that they were going in opposite directions when I did this. And now that I have this little centerpiece done, I'm just going to press the seams to one side. And if you downloaded the instructions for Block 8, I do have some suggestions for the direction to press the seams that you could use if you need a little assistance with that. That's what a cute little block. But we need to add more to it. All right, moving on. For this next part, we're going to make 2 at a time half square triangles, and we're going to need our H piece and our K piece. And we will need our A and D pieces, but we're going to not need those for just a little bit. All right, we're going to take 1 of the H pieces, 1 of the K pieces, and I'm going to draw a diagonal line down the center of the lighter of the 2. Use my 45-degree mark. And again, a fabric-friendly pen for this one. And then I'm going to draw a diagonal line on those other 3 squares right away as well. Okay, now that these are all drawn, I'm going to bring my K piece back, and I'm going to line the 2 pieces together, making sure I've got all the edges lined up. And then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on both sides of the lines. Okay, now that I've got this sewn, I'm just going to cut right on that line. And then I'm going to press towards the darker triangle. And I'm just using my finger to kind of fold it back first and then pressing it. I'm just going to repeat that with the rest of them. As I'm pressing these, I'm just going to put the image of the block up, because originally when I was planning to sew this, I thought, okay, we'll do stripes and we'll cut strips and then cut those into the pieces we need. But then I'm like, I think I can make this a little bit easier. So that's why we're doing the 2 at a time half square triangles. And then we'll sew on the A and D pieces to get that stripe look. I thought that'd be a little bit easier. Okay, now that I got these all pressed, I'm going to trim them down, and they need to be 3.5 inches square. And I want to make sure I'm lining that 45-degree mark up with the diagonal on the block. And then once you have it lined up, you just need to trim off a little bit and the dog ears. And then I just want to repeat that for those other blocks. You should have a total of 8 of these. Okay, now I'm just going to take 2 of them that are the opposite direction here. And then I'm going to take the D and the A squares, and now we're going to make our stripes. And to do that, we're going to draw a diagonal line down the back of each of these, and we're going to use that 45-degree mark on our ruler and a fabric-friendly pen. And you're just going to go ahead and draw a line down all of them. And we're also going to do that to the white squares, the A squares. And basically we need 1 white square and 1 of the chartreuse color squares to go on each of the half square triangles. The white is going to be on the lighter pink at the top, and then the chartreuse is going to be on that popsicle color. We want to line up that diagonal with the diagonal of the half square triangle. We're going to do 1 on each corner. Then we're going to sew right on those lines. Okay, just make sure you lined up your corners of your little squares to the corners of your half square triangles. And then I'm just going to sew right on that line again. Okay, now I've got those sewn on there. I'm just going to cut these apart first. And then I am going to trim about a 1/4 inch from that sewn line. And I'm going to do that on both sides of these. And then I'm going to press towards the little triangles, and then we'll have that nice stripe look without having to cut strips and worry about angles. Okay, and then when you have these all pressed up, they should measure 3.5 inches square. Mine look pretty good, but I'm just going to trim off a little bit of the excess here. Okay, now that I got these both pressed up, I'm going to line them up together using the opposite directions. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam on here, and I want to make sure that I line up those seams as carefully as I can, because then my little V points where they meet up will look pretty clean. Okay, now that I got it sewn, you can see how those V's need to line up pretty well, otherwise they'll look a little bit off. And I'm going to press this just to one side. And again, if you download the instructions, I have guides on which way to press the seams if you need them. Okay, that one's done. And then I'm just going to repeat this with all the other pieces, and then we'll be pretty close to putting the rest of the block together. Okay, I've got all my pieces made, so I can bring back that center piece and those pieces that I just made. And I'm just going to form these into a star. And then I'll take back those little pieces from a long time ago and make that Irish chain piece for the corners. And then I'm ready to sew this together, and I'm just going to do it by rows. And now we've got the finished block. I think this might be my favorite one of the series so far. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're following along and you're sewing, I would love to see your pictures. I'll put a link to my email in the description. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and visit us at delafieldquiltco.com. Have a great day.